Good morning, everyone. Patricia Juba here from Life Worth Living Corp. And this podcast. This morning, we have a very special guest. I am pleased to and honored to have her on the platform. This is Lisa Westgate. She is the CEO of L&N Westgate LLC. I am super excited to hear her story, her journey, and all that she has to share with us to make us better.
Hi, good morning, Patricia.
Welcome, Lisa. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to see you.
you as well. And Lisa, as I always start, I'd like to jump right in.
Let's do it.
Okay, Lisa, you've been in procurement for over 20 years and started talking about supplier diversity back in 2004. What got you started on this journey and what made you decide to create LN Westgate LLC?
Well, that's a big question. So thank you.
Yes.
So I started my career really over 30 years ago, and I started as the person who just bought stuff, right? Because I'm of the age where we didn't really have this kind of formal procurement on the indirect side. So you were just the person who bought the pens, bought the paper, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Slowly it rolled into a full procurement position. And back in 2004, I worked for a large consulting firm in the HR services world, and we received an RFP that asked us to define our supply base by minority and women-owned businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting there thinking, I do not understand what you're asking me, right? Because I was in a company in 2004, we were a company that was acquiring companies hand over fist, which for those people that understand and are part of acquisitions, getting paperwork in order, understanding supply base, that's its own monster. But then understanding who owns these things, I remember thinking, I don't know why you even want this information. That was really my first question. Why are
Right.
you making this so hard? I picked up the phone, I called some other procurement peers in different businesses, and they started explaining to me what minority and business ownership meant, not just for the business, but also for the business owners, also for communities. And it was hands down the biggest aha moment of my life, because
Okay.
I recognized procurement has the opportunity to own everything. And I'm using that superlative both as hyperbole as well as reality, right? I was at an event this past weekend, and I was in a room with industry leaders. And at one point I thought, I am in a room with billions of dollars in spend. And my question is, if not you, then who? Because
Yeah.
government doesn't make economies, business makes economy.
Right.
So if our businesses aren't recognizing the need to be good citizens, and I'm going to take, if I could redo that statement from, it's not the business, it's the person, the human being sitting in the chair, recognize
Right.
who they do business with actually creates the economy and community. And each one of us, you and I are not from the same town, right?
Right.
You're about 6 towns away from me.
Right.
So we can call ourselves not a community, or we can say we're Massachusetts community. We can say
Yes.
Easterners, or we're US citizens, we're US based. There's so many ways that we can look at community. But
Mhm.
if so this is the information to answer your question. This is the information that flooded my brain in that moment. And I just recognized we've been doing this wrong. I've been doing this wrong. All these mentors and peers that have been talking to me about, total cost of ownership and inventory turnover, all these very important. And I will say procurement is very important in the respect that they keep evaluation criteria, they keep facts are facts, math is math. Those things have to be. It's
Right.
not that. It's how do you discover the suppliers that you want to do business with? And are you looking in the right place? And are you trying hard enough to drill into the communities that you are building manufacturing plants? And I'm not here to place shame or blame on any.
Right.
I just want to bring awareness. If you're part of an ecosystem that's building a we're looking at a lot of manufacturing coming back into the US in these next 3, 5, 10 years. If you're part of that ecosystem, look in your community, the local community, because you need stores to support the employees you need little restaurants that are going to be
Right.
supporting those employees.
Yes.
It works if we work it together. But if we pretend we're not part of it,
Right.
you're actually part of the problem. And so that's what flooded my brain in 2004. I then gave up this wonderful job with the intention of following my goal to understand supplier diversity more. I went to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts because I had heard that Massachusetts does supplier diversity really well. I tried to get a job in the supplier diversity office. I didn't. I ended up at the operational services division, which was fine. They were building out statewide contracts. There was a lot of supplier diversity requirements around government contracts. So I got to see it and then connect myself with Bill McAvoy, who was at the time the executive director for supplier diversity office, and really have recognition and understanding of what and why. I then left there and went to, where did I go? I ultimately ended up at one of the big data companies that supports data for supplier diversity. And I will tell you, Patricia, that's what did it for me. That was the piece that closed the loop. And because it allowed me, I have an expression which is intention plus action plus data equals supplier diversity is a
Okay.
perfect triangle. If it's not a perfect triangle, it's out of whack and it doesn't make any sense. If you have intention with nothing else, you have idealism, which is wonderful. We
Mhm.
like idealism, but it has to be supported with action and data. And working that data organization and bringing professional services to the table really allowed me to kind of cap everything that I then started understanding. I want to be a part of the solution. I believe the solution sits in procurement. I believe supplier diversity is an absolute necessity to our
Mhm.
ecosystem.
Yes.
What the heck are we going to do if
Yes.
we're not all working together?
That's right.
I just don't get it. And so it is from that idealism. I put the action in place for how do I go about starting my own procurement and supplier diversity consulting firm. I then had the data to support it. How many people do I know? How do I reach out to some peers to get myself moving, to start getting some of that job, right? Because it's similar to not having a supplier diversity program without intention plus action plus data. You can't have your own business if you don't have your intention. Why are you doing it? How are you going to wake up every single day all by yourself? All by yourself. That's the entrepreneur way. We sit down, it is lonely, and we drive our message. And then we connect ourselves and we collaborate. But but it's through that first gumption, if you will, that we get up and we go. And then the data to support it. Am I financially sound enough to keep going, to keep this little engine chugging forward? And
Mhm.
so that's it. That's been the past 21 years in this quest for supplier diversity.
Well, that is awesome and a powerful journey. Thank you for sharing that. Um, my next question, Lisa, is you're leading a shift from what we've always known as supplier diversity to something you call supplier diversification. Can you break that down for us? And why
Sure.
is that shift so important today?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think, I took this jump into entrepreneurship on the same year. Um, I would like to say that the whole world changed here, but it didn't, right? It's been building to this. But
Hmm.
all of a sudden, I start a supplier diversity and procurement consulting firm, and then the anti-DEI movement this wave came. And I
Hmm.
thought, oh. Okay, right? We've always had some naysayers, but now we have naysayers with a different attitude, a different voice, a
Hmm.
little different support, right? And I don't get political, but we have to recognize the support is a significant support. So I went back to my principles of procurement, and my principles of procurement say this: we have to we have to discover suppliers, retain suppliers, and develop suppliers. That's procurement. That's sourcing strategy. How do we find them? How do we keep them? How do we build them? How do we grow with them? And on top of that, how do we do this in a way that we're alleviating or eliminating as much risk, that we're creating a true risk mitigation plan? And
Hmm.
and again, I'm going to bring it back to, if you think you're going to do business in a manufacturer, I don't know why I'm stuck on manufacturing today, but
That's all right.
here we are, right? So if you're going to open up a manufacturing plant in the middle of absolutely nowhere, whatever state, and you're not going to build out a community-based procurement initiative that's going to drive that community, you're going to, in essence, ruin the town. The town's going to fall apart. One. So the risk here is you're not going to have places for your employees. You're not going to have a support system. You're not going to, spouses of your employees have to work somewhere, right?
Right.
So there's those little things. Then there's the bigger things. We are living in a world today where there is bombings, where there are ships hitting bridges, where there are tornadoes
Yes.
and hurricanes. We're in Massachusetts. We've had 3 earthquakes in the past, I don't know, 7 months.
Right.
Months.
Right.
We don't have earthquakes. Give us a blizzard. Give me snow. Do not
Yes.
rock my earth, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. So what does that mean? What is your business? What's your business contingency if there's an earthquake that happens? So imagine you're putting together this multi-million-dollar manufacturing plant again in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
And we're not taking into consideration the routes, the logistical routes that are required to bring your raw materials and goods in. Your indirect infrastructure
Hmm.
has to be built out by your community base. And again, recognizing community base starts small, builds out, right? The Southern
Yes.
Massachusetts, you and I, Massachusetts, etc. So to connect this back with your question, right?
No, I'm loving this, Lisa. I'm loving it.
What it actually means, supplier diversification, is to have supplier diversity, not with action and data, but just with intention, is idealism.
Hmm.
Have a strategy that's based in action, to have data that supports it. That's where we mitigate risk. That's where we build out our processes. That's where we build intentional redundancy, which is so important in 2025. And on top of that, we have this intention of a community-based / supplier diversity procurement initiative. And that's the triangle that creates it. So I believe that diversification is the intention to do business with all, the intention to recognize that our intention is to do business with all, and
Hmm.
to base discovery, retention, and development in that initiative, and have the actions and the data to support it. It always comes back, always,
Hmm.
to procurement first, discovery, retention, development. Who we do business with, an entire diversification. I can remember, and I will share this. I was at a meeting one time in a location that I probably shouldn't have flexed that I had a procurement and supplier diversity program, that I was a consultant for this. And
Hmm.
what came back to me was some of that really jaw dropping, my apologies, jaw dropping bias about what my personal intention is of who I do business with. Left me
Hmm.
speechless for a second. And I recognized, oh, this is a crowd this is a crowd that I don't typically hang with. Let's just say that.
Right.
And my
Okay.
response was, I believe in veterans and I believe in disabled veterans having a seat at the table, that we intentionally discover
Mm-hmm.
disabled veterans. And really what I did is I met them where they were. I met them at the place of, they're going to recognize there's certifications for a whole bunch of things with a whole bunch of cause behind them.
Mm-hmm.
My job is never to question you on the certification types that you intend to do business with, but that I will continue to scream from the rooftops, we cannot be intentional to diversify our portfolio
Mm-hmm.
unless we recognize that there are diversity out there in the world and that we have to embrace and bring it inward. And I thought
Powerful.
I thought I managed that pretty well for, again, we all have those moments, I'm part of the LGBT community. I understand and recognize when direct bias or even micro bias is pushed in my direction.
Mm-hmm.
But to call me into question for the aggregate, that was my first introduction. So meeting people where they are, that's all I can do. I also recognized, going back to entrepreneurship and the loneliness that happens, I realized early on it is not my job or responsibility to bring a naysayer to being a yay sayer. It's not my job,
Amen. As sure as thank you for saying that, Lisa,
not my job.
because it is not our job. It's not we're not in the convincing business.
That's right. That's right. I can move you along. There's
Yes.
plenty more. It's kind of like the opposite of collaboration, right? Like I look to collaborate with my peers and other entrepreneurs to build out grid programs
Yes.
because there's enough business in the world and I want ships rising. If you want to keep my ship down, I'm moving on. I'm moving on. That's so I hope that explains kind of supplier diversification versus diversity. I think it is to ensure, above all, I am procurement first. You have to be able to produce good work. That's it. Produce good
Yes.
work. Show your value.
All right. All right. So, Lisa, what piece of advice that you would give to a new entrepreneur who's just getting started, especially someone who wants to make a real difference in their field?
That's a great question. I think, do you really want to? Like, I would, I would second guess somebody who said, I'm going to start my own business. You sure? Are you sure you want to? Because here's the answer to that. The answer is tired, lonely. You're going to get a lot more no's than you are yeses. It is, you do not have a paycheck that hits every 2 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no paychecks that hits,
Yes.
right? And when you look out, so there's the personal hit that happens, whether it's to ego, whether it's to financially, whether it's to the relationships around you, you have to be ready for that real hit. And, I jokingly said to a friend of mine, like a year in, I said, I wish somebody mentioned that going into business for yourself is really hard.
Yes, it is.
It's really, really hard. And it's as hard in the good as it is in the bad, right? You
Yes.
land that contract and it's like, oh, okay. Nobody feels the same excitement that I feel when I do good work, right?
Mhm.
When I land a client where I think, oh my gosh, I'm going to bring such value. We're going to do such good work together. And
Yes.
that excitement of doing it. And you have to be able to look around and know people are happy for you, but they're not thrilled the way you are. And
Yes.
it's not, you're not working on a team, right? Even in collaborations. And I think that's why it's so important to build out your bench. right? I
Mm-hmm.
talk a
Mm-hmm.
lot about, I am a small business. I'm a sole entrepreneur. I did just hire my first part-time.
Okay,
Yeah, right.
that's a good thing. Yes.
Thank you. Um, but besides that, I am a person who has a bench of 27 entrepreneurs. That means you throw a project at me, I can look on my bench and find quality and time and and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say as you are starting out your entrepreneurship and thinking what your organization is going to be, look around and create that bench, because it is as important to have your deep bench as it is to have a good marketing plan. They are your marketing plan. My
Yes.
people are my marketing. My people are we're going to do business together because we like and we trust and we value and we see experience and we have depth and we have similar mission, but not same mission, but similar
Right.
mission,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't need another me. Um,
Right.
it would be frightening and it would be a lot, that would be a lot in a room. Um, excuse me, but what I do need is someone who says, "Oh, that's a bad idea."
Yes, to be truly honest.
Truly honest, truly honest.
Truly honest and not back of the door type of honest that people will present to you in
Yes,
business.
yes, yes.
Mm,
I remember when I first started, and I would tell people, and then they'd say, "That's such a great idea," and I said, "Yeah, but where is it not? Like, where's it
yeah,
not a good idea?" And they say, "Oh, no, no, it's a good idea." And I think, "Oh, moving on. I need to find that person who says, you know, who has the guts and relationship tie to
yes.
say,
Mhm.
your personhood, you might need some help on this particular thing. Of course I need some help on some particular things, right? I am
Yes.
I am not the end all be all, and I need to know that about myself going in. So that I think is a long-winded advice to somebody starting out.
But it's a necessary winded
Yeah, thank you.
advice. It's necessary to hear that because that comes from honesty, it comes from experience, and I can feel it. I can feel
Thank
it. That is a wake up call and an encouragement. It's an
you.
encouragement to know what to look for, and you're not like lost in space of I'm the greatest.
That's right. And you're right. And I'm going to add to it, be flexible and know not only
Yes,
are you not the greatest, but what you think you're going into business to do today could shift 5, 6 degrees. And you have to be flexible to do that,
yes, exactly.
because the world is, I mean, especially the world is, I think, especially today, and especially in the kind of the works that we do,
Hmm.
it is so community poor that our community
Yes,
is changing constantly.
that's right. That's right. I have one more question for you, Lisa,
Please.
and that is you do a lot, you wear many hats. How do you take care of yourself? What's one self care practice that keeps you grounded and centered? Just one.
Just one is
Just one.
meditating, getting up every single day and
Me,
meditating and being
me
connected,
too.
grounding myself to this planet, to this universe. Um,
Yes,
Without that, I would be floating off into nowhere land. Both
yes.
physically and mentally. Like, it's just, I am no good have I not spent my 16, 17 minutes in a full meditation. It's no good.
I get it. As mine is meditation and prayer. So I get it. And that's the first fruit of the morning for me.
Yes, 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 it is. Without it, whoo, I wouldn't want to see me.
Exactly. Yeah, because then it will be the side of the neck ministry going on. I
Yes.
understand. That's what I call it, and I'm sticking to it.
That's right. That's right.
I am super grateful for the knowledge that you have shared on this platform, being a guest here. Lisa, thank you so much. And I know everyone that sees this podcast is going to be wiser and richer for this.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. This was lovely. You were lovely. I look forward to seeing you at the gala on August 9th.
Yes.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you. Thank you. So every Monday, we thank Lisa Westgate for being on our platform. And if you have a story and a journey of your entrepreneurship, or maybe you're an author, you can reach out to me at lifeworthlivingcorp.org and let's get connected and get you on the platform. God bless.